our defense analyst, Oubai Shahbandar. Oubai, a lot discussed there, very strong words from Iran. We see there that it has said it will go beyond that 3.67% limit and that the IAEA will confirm that tomorrow. What else did you take away from what was discussed, and what did you make in general of this press conference?
Well, Maria, quite the extraordinary press conference here in Tehran. That was, of course, the catalyst for it all has been the maximum pressure campaign of President Trump and the withdrawal from the nuclear deal that was signed under the previous Obama administration. Some key takeaways here. One, that the Iranian officials are clearly stating they are throwing down the gauntlet, that they will enrich uranium to the degree that they see fit. And that from their perspective, with the U.S. withdrawing from the JCPOA, the acronym for the nuclear deal, that they will now focus their efforts on the current signatories to the deal that includes European member states, China, and Russia. Of course, a main focus here of this press conference was to put pressure on the EU. Talks are ongoing between President Macron of France and President Rouhani of Iran. Those discussions are ongoing. Perhaps that may lead to further round of a summit in mid-July between Iran and France. Iran is feeling the pressure of the maximum pressure campaign. Economically, it has significantly impacted its ability to export oil. It wants the EU to find a solution to the sanctions, to its sanctions dilemma, and hence this press conference. We have to really remember that there's a strategic linkage between Tehran's approach, nuclear policy approach, with its nuclear program and the sanctions regime that has been imposed on it by the United States and by the European Union. We're looking at Iran's currency dropping nearly 70% in the last year. Oil exports, by some reports, are down to a little over 200,000 barrels per day. That's down from nearly 2.5 million barrels per day from last year. EU business with Iran has dropped nearly 50% according to some reports. So Iran is in a very desperate position here to find a way out of the sanctions regime. And that, of course, was a major topic of discussion in the press conference today. Iran is saying that it will continue its enrichment unless the EU and other signatories to the deal do not find some sort of way out. And of course, lastly, it was very interesting to hear by Tehran officials that they will not renegotiate the JCPOA. That has been a major demand by President Trump. President Trump sending a message to Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, recently, telling him that he is willing to renegotiate the deal according to terms that perhaps Washington and its allies will believe to be more advantageous. But Iranians really closing the door to that possibility today by saying that not one word will be added to the JCPOA. So it'll be really interesting to see how President Trump will respond to this press conference later this morning.
Exactly. Very interested indeed when Arak said the goal is to see how to implement it, not how to renegotiate it. And so, but it looks like they still want to keep the diplomacy alive. They clearly said, we want our demands to be met from all sides, but we do not want a show. Talk to me, Oubai, about diplomacy. Turkey was also mentioned. What diplomacy, apart from France, that we know they had that call between Rouhani and Macron yesterday. Where is the diplomacy going to come from? Where is a breakthrough going to come from?
Well, we heard, of course, a lot that President Rouhani is discussing with Macron and with European member states, the signatories to the deal, and with China and to Russia. But of course, one name that was not mentioned, but very much prominent in any future diplomatic efforts, if they are to succeed, is, of course, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran. He, of course, has the final say on the nuclear program and its way forward on whether or not Iran will continue to increase its enrichment of uranium and its plutonium reprocessing and reproduction facility in the Arak reactor. Of course, while we heard from the Tehran officials today that they are willing to give diplomacy a chance, Supposedly every 60 days, they will reevaluate the GCPOA and pull out from a separate section of the deal if they do not receive sanctions waivers from the EU and the GCPOA member states. The Arak heavy water reactor was mentioned fairly prominently in this press conference. This is the Iran's only heavy water reactor that was supposedly rendered inoperable as part of the agreement, as part of the nuclear agreement. We heard from Iranian officials today that they have the ability to re-operationalize it, to put the Arak heavy water reactor and its plutonium production capability back online and at an even higher rate of production than before, and to be able to modernize it. That is going to raise eyebrows in Washington and perhaps could be used by Tehran as political leverage in its ongoing diplomatic talks with France and the EU.
A lot of eyebrows will be raised in Washington, I'm sure. And Oubai, talk to me about the oil tanker that is in Gibraltar. The Iranians there said it was not heading to Syria. It's a big oil tanker. It couldn't fit through the Suez Canal, and that there is no law that allows the UK to seize such a tanker. And clearly, it said the UK was using the help of the United States in this situation.
Well, Maria, that was very interesting because this is the first time we've heard Iranian officials deny that the supertanker of 2 million barrels of oil that it was headed to supply the Assad regime. So that was the first time we've heard the Iranian officials deny that was the intended purpose of that supertanker. Of course, Iranian oil shipments have a tendency to not officially list their destination because of EU and U.S. sanctions. The Assad regime is widely sanctioned by almost the entire world, other than Russia and Iran and a few other states that are allied with the Assad regime. That's because of the horrific war crimes that are being conducted by the Assad regime and its military forces and militia in Syria. So it's interesting to see that Iran officially denying that was the intended purpose of the oil supertanker. It does not, we did not hear officials specify who was the intended recipient. Iran, of course, that's 2 million barrels of oil. That's a lot of oil. Iran wants that, desperately needs to export its oil at a time when oil prices are low, when Iran is having difficulty finding markets for its oil, with oil exports down to under 300,000. That is driving a very heavy blow to the Iranian economy. We've heard some reports that the prices of milk and vegetables have skyrocketed. There's a lot of discontent by Iranian citizens with the economic situation. So it's clear that Iranian officials in this press conference are trying to find a way out, and they need new markets for their oil exports if they're to get their economy back online.
Okay. Oubai, thank you so much for your analysis. And as you said, quite the press conference that we've seen there from those three Iranian officials in Tehran. And thank you so much, Oubai Shahbandar,